Okay, so today I want to talk about shifting your identity to shift your reality. And this is something I have over the past few months since I've been in New Zealand um, got to recognize and understand. Um, I know a lot of people talk about self-concept and your identity and how that um, links to what your manifestation and the reality manifesting and the reality of creating, but I never caught on to it until I got to New Zealand. And for me, it was when I came here in September. I was staying with a friend and just witnessing like the stability she had in her life with like a nice home, and like regular income and being able to afford things. I think those were the main three things for me. Um, that kind of just like woke up this part of me who was like, all right, I'm done with living out of a suitcase. I'm done with like always being constantly on the move and being remote. Um, just done with it. And I think I had like felt the buildup of momentum and was slowly working on shifting out of the lifestyle that I was living and that I had created. But I was gonna kind of like, you know, keep going along with it until I got my ducks in a row, in terms of like career and money and what am I doing. And I also kind of couldn't make up my mind in terms of where I wanted to live. So I wasn't really expecting New Zealand to impact me in the way that it has. But as soon as I got to New Zealand, got to my friend's house, I was like, I want this life. Like, I don't want my old life anymore. I want to be able to afford things. I want to be able to have a home, to have a wardrobe, to have strong connections. When I'm moving around all the time, you meet great people, but you're not building strong connections because you're always on the move. You know, I want to have a community. I want to have aspects in my life that are stable, but while still having the freedom and fluidity and the flexibility that I have right now in the lifestyle that I have. So when I first got to my friends in September, I acknowledged it and was like, okay, I'm gonna work towards this, baby steps, you know, because this is a big change. And I realized that I was very attached to the identity of being a solo female traveler, who was doing her thing and could be where she wanted when she wanted and for however long she wanted. She wasn't attached to anything or anyone, and just went with the flow. And I loved that identity. And I loved the places that I went to and the people that I met and how I showed up, as the identity and in the reality that I created. And I was like, oh shit, this is a problem. I want a new life, but I'm really attached to the old identity that I had. I wasn't so much attached to the old life because I wanted to be in one country, I wanted home, I didn't want to bounce around as much, but I loved how it made me feel and how I perceived myself and maybe how others perceived me. And that was something I wasn't sure I wanted to let go of. So that was back in September, and over time I have just been like trying to build a foundation in my career, in my business, with my finances. I wasn't gonna do anything drastic, you know. I was still getting irritable with wanting to make more money and wanting to afford things and wanting to have a home and wanting to apply for like my New Zealand visa, like work visa, to stay here for a year rather than being a tourist visa. but I was still just kind of half-assing it in a way. One foot in the new life, one foot in the old life. Not really like really pushing for and committing to the new life that I wanted. I was like, oh, you know, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Whilst deep down knowing that I don't know what it is, but I really resonate with New Zealand. I just see a lot of potential, a lot of opportunities. I see a lot of things that I love and want to engage in more in my life. And so deep down I know, like, this is my place. I don't know for how long, but I know it's my place for the next year. And even though I knew that, it was like I was taking bits of action, but I wasn't really going for it. I wasn't setting a plan. I wasn't being disciplined about it, being diligent, connecting the dots, and going after what I wanted, because I was still kind of attached to parts of my old identity. Anyway, on New Year's Day, I woke up and I had a really good night on New Year's Eve, and the weeks and days before that, building up, were good. But New Year's Day, I woke up and I felt absolutely disgusting. I drank a lot, I ate a lot, and was on my feet a lot. And that really triggered me to, and I was at my friend's house. I woke up at my friend's house, and I just woke up and I was so triggered, and I was like, right, this has got to stop. All the things that I'm doing that I'm still attached to, that's my old identity, I don't like that anymore. Like, she was great at that moment in time for, you know, for a year or for 2 years or whatever. But I don't want that shit anymore. I don't want it because I don't like how it makes me feel. It makes me feel restricted and limited and not abundant, and not free, and just not satisfied and fulfilled, not stable and secure. And so I woke up and I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? I felt like I'd been hit by a car. And so I just like got myself ready. I went home, which was literally like a 3-hour bus ride, which is probably good because it gave me time to sleep, time to just digest how I was feeling. And then I took 3 days to just recalibrate. I got really clear about my intentions, and I got really clear about the discipline that I will be implementing in the days to come, the weeks to come, to get me to my goals. And in doing that, I was spending all the time by myself. I was doing a lot of meditation and being really, really aware of myself, of my thoughts and the ways that I've been acting and behaving, and reflecting on what it is that I want to get to. What is this new reality I want to get to? And the more I did that, the more I witnessed, like, oh shit, this requires a whole new version of yourself, which I didn't really get before. I just thought, oh, like, I'm just gonna change my reality. Like, that's it, you know? But it makes sense, obviously, because I'm a whole different person if I'm being remote and traveling the world and being by myself and just spending all my time by myself. And just kind of making do with what I have and being very minimalistic. But I'm like, oh shit. This takes a whole new identity. This takes a whole new version of you that you've partially experienced having a stable life in China for 3 years. But this is going to be to a whole new level. And it really is always something that snaps, you know, and I was like, I'm ready to let go of my old self. I'm ready to let go of the old things that I don't like. And this was kind of just everything. Like getting rid of clothes, changing the way that I dress, changing the way that I talk to myself, changing the way that I do my makeup, changing my environment, changing the people around me, changing how I show up in my career, in my business, changing how I communicate, changing how I interact, changing how I see, feel, and act towards things, and changing, getting my fucking visa. I want a visa. I just want to be in one place for a decent amount of time. I want to be stable and secure. And I was like, whoa, you know, it's mad how you can kind of like be in that in-between stage where you're like, oh, I kind of want this thing, but I'm not really sure, and like, I don't know how it's going to work out, or you're just not really determined, not really adamant about it. And then you have something that triggers you and you're just like, I draw the line, fuck it, I'm done, I'm going for it, I'm getting what I want, no matter what. And that's how I felt. And yeah, so I've been doing like hours of meditations daily. Again, Joe Dispenza meditations because I think he's great. And so I'm just witnessing what my old identity is and how she's showing up and how that has led to my past reality, or the reality that I'm in now, where I'm in this kind of like limbo state. And the longer that you're in this meditative state and you bring awareness to this, the more you notice, and the little things that you notice that are attached to something that you no longer want. And it's really, really interesting. And so it's really good to take inventory on these things, because then you can do a perspective shift of like, okay, if this is how I'm showing up right now, what do I need to do to show up as the person that I want to be, and that has the things that I want and lives the life that I want, right? So examples. So some examples are, my old identity would be, she moves from country to country every 3 months. New identity wants to stay in one place for a year plus. Old identity doesn't have strong in-person connections. New identity has strong in-person connections. Old identity insists on not needing clothes and lives out of a suitcase for however long she is away, which has been like 8 months. And really, I don't kind of buy clothes as well because I just don't have any space. So I just like, I'm like, okay, well, I draw the line at that because I don't have any space and I don't want to collect any more luggage. So let's just use what you have, right? Which has been fun for 2 years, and yeah, it's been kind of cool being minimalistic and just using what I have and not needing a lot and being happy and satisfied with it. But my new identity is like, I want clothes, I want expansion, I want a wardrobe, I want options, and I want to be able to indulge and enjoy that. Old identity lives off very little, and I think living off very little money and traveling on a very little amount of money has been adventurous, it's been fun, it's been very great at proving a lot of my beliefs wrong, in terms of like, oh, I need a lot of money to travel and to have these experiences and to be free and have what I want. Now I know those things aren't true, but I would like to be able to have more money to play with, to create with. I don't want to restrict myself. Yeah, so those are some examples of my old identity and my new identity, and when I identified what my old identity does and how that doesn't really reflect in the life that I want, I'm realizing like, okay, I have to let go of this now. I have to not do this anymore. And when I redirect my focus onto what my new identity is and what that looks like, then I'm able to be like, okay, I can redirect my actions. This is what I need to do. This is how I need to show up. and consistently doing that is what creates that new reality. So it's really, really important that we bring perspective to this of what identity have you created, and does that identity support the life that you want? And if it doesn't, what is it about the identity that you need to change? Yeah, and I think a big thing for me also is like belief. My old identity believes more in living out of a suitcase and traveling the world and living in this country and that country and living off a little amount of money and doing my own thing than building a foundation for myself, having a home, being in one country, having a community, having a family. That, there it is. That is a big, fat, limiting belief. That even though to the core I want that at some point, actually I think for the first year I really didn't want that. I was like, oh, I don't want this. And I closed off to it. And I think it's really, it should get really dangerous when you close off to something, because at any moment in time you can change your mind, and that's completely okay. But if you close yourself off to something, you create resistance to ever being open to that experience in the future. So it might take you a little bit of like pulling and tussling and fighting back and forth with yourself to admit what you want, because in the past you told yourself you didn't want that thing, but now you're changing your mind and you're having a problem with accepting that you've changed your mind. But it's completely okay. So for me, I had a tussle around like, oh no, I don't want to be in one place, it's so boring, and I don't have community because like I'd rather be around other travelers and etc, etc. But now I'm realizing like it's okay that you want these things now, and those things don't have to look in the way they've looked in the past, or they don't have to look how like they've looked in other people's lives. It can be very unique and specific to you and who you are and what you want, and that's okay. So it's coming to terms with that, and when you can let go of the attachment you have to certain aspects of the old identity, you can start adopting a new identity, and you can start morphing and leaning into that new reality that you want to create. And now it's more with ease rather than conflict and struggle and hardship, which is great. So yeah, bring awareness to what your identity is and your self-concept, and how that is reflecting in your life, and what the gap is between your new life and your old life, and your new identity, your old identity and your new identity, and how you can bridge that gap. But yeah, that was like a new thing that I discovered over the past few months, that I've just like tapped into the knowledge of and been like, okay, cool, this makes things seem like a bit more seamless. I understand now how to make this transition. And there's something in the mind that clicks when you're like, oh, there are different versions of myself, different identities and roles that I can be in and adopt. And at any time you can change that. And you're not being someone else, you're still being you, but you're being a different version of yourself. You're just tweaking your thoughts and beliefs and behaviors and habits and etc, etc. But you're still yourself. You're just, and I wouldn't even say a better version of yourself. You're just a different version of yourself that aligns with a different reality or a different life, which I think is pretty cool. You just change caps, really, but you're still yourself, because you yourself can create whatever life that you want, and at any time you can change it, because you have that power. You are a magician, an alchemist. So yeah, it's really fun, and if you learn how to use those skills and use those tools, they can really help you in amazing ways. And I definitely think for me, it's helped me to be like less confused about how to make change. And it's definitely allowed me to like not hate on where I am or what I'm doing. Or I think my biggest thing is like, oh my God, I want this new thing. Like, why did I not know that before? And it's like, well, you didn't know because you were actually enjoying your old thing. You're enjoying your old reality. You were enjoying your old identity that did serve a purpose at a moment in time. Now you don't want that, and that's okay. Switch, change it up. That's fine, you know? So, yeah, have a look into your identity and if it marries up with your reality and what you need to do in between to change that.